Major's got a few funny faces for everybody before we begin some updates on Brightline. All right, are you done with your silly faces? All right, good job. All right, everybody. I've got some updates on the Brightline train. Very specifically, the United States Coast Guard has come out with what they call their proposed deviation schedule. This deviation schedule is a test of how they plan to operate the train bridge going over the St. Lucie River for when both the Brightline trains, they're estimating 36 of those a day between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. And when the FEC, the Florida East Coast freight trains, somewhere around 14 plus of those a day at all hours of the day, are able to go across our St. Lucie River waterway and take that bridge from being from the open position to the closed position where boats can't come through, and then back to the open position again when they do come through. Why this matters so much is because to take that bridge, that train bridge from open to closed to back open takes roughly 16, 17, 18 minutes just to do that motion of the train bridge. That doesn't count the amount of time that it takes to actually move the train across it. So if you're talking about a 10-minute freight train going across there, that's added time that you need to put on top of that window for that train bridge to open and close. But here's what the United States Coast Guard has come forward with, and I have to say thank you to everybody in the community for fighting on this. You were out there fighting for a long time, making comments on this and participating in this process, and it's what has allowed us to get to what I consider to be a largely palatable proposal from the United States Coast Guard. So here's what they're saying. Number one, the most important part of it is the amount of time that we have. They're proposing that we get 30 minutes out of every hour. So 50-50. 50-50 is a good place to start, right? And that 30 minutes every hour that they're planning to give our community would look like this, that at the 15 minutes past the hour and the 45 minutes past the hour, the train bridge would have to be in the open position for 15 minutes. So when you look at that, you'd be looking at, let's say, 12:15 it's open and 12:45 it's open. 1:15 it's open, 1:45 it's open. 2:15, 2:45 it's open, and so on and so on. Everybody gets the idea. So beyond that, when they were doing some repairs to the bridge over about a 20-day window previously, one of the things that they added was a place for a bridge tender. So this will be a bridge with a tender on it so that that tender can see, is something unsafe happening? Is there something stuck on the tracks? Is there a boat underneath? What's taking place with that so that it can be operated by line of sight on what is actually happening there? That's an important piece of that. You look beyond this and you say they're going to have some apps and some other things that help alert people, whether on their phone or other places, to what the train schedule is looking like, where the trains are in the process, if it's on time, and there don't look like there's going to be any delays for when the bridge is going to be in the open position, that sort of thing. So a couple of the things that they've given to the train operators is this. Sometimes that train could be close enough and moving that they don't want that train to stop. And so they're giving the train basically a 5-minute buffer to move into what we'll call the community's time to have that bridge open. If they move into that 5-minute buffer of, let's say, they're not able to put the bridge down right at 12:15 or 1:15, and it has to be a little bit later, well, they have to give us back our time in that hour. So these are some things that everybody has to pay attention to in the community. Take videos of this, watch this. If you're stuck at the waterway, make comments. There will be a public comment period that is opening up beginning June 21 and going to August 4 for you to make note of what it is that you're seeing about how this schedule is playing out. Is Brightline and FEC, are they working in tandem with this, or are they closing the bridge when they're not supposed to have it closed based upon the schedule that I'm telling you right now? And are they doing that consistently, hour after hour? These are things that we need the community to let us know and take a log of, a video log, a paper log, whatever that is. Take note of that, because you can understand that after this proposed deviation, that means temporary, we're going to have to work to make this schedule permanent. So a couple of things on that. the test deviation on this will be tested until December 17th. That's right now what the Coast Guard has said. They're going to test this as a schedule till December 17th. Now, here's some things that I think we need to be concerned about in this whole process, and some things that I think we should be less concerned about in this whole process. So some of the things that I would say would be this. I mentioned already, are they moving into the designated time that is for our community to move maritime traffic through that waterway? That's a concern that we have. Another concern that we should have is this, and try to follow me on this. The Brightline company, as I understand it, is not anticipating running their full passenger service of 36 trains a day until maybe even the mid to late fall. So let's say probably not in June, probably not in July, maybe in August they start running 36 trains a day, but maybe even not even August, maybe September or beyond. Why does that matter? Because if they're not running their full schedule of trains, then we are not fully realizing how their full schedule of trains is affecting our community and our maritime traffic. Because there might be other times that they're leaving the bridge open because there aren't actually any trains coming, but then we're not having the traffic back up or pile up in the way that it would if the train bridge were closed, because they were actually running the true number of trains that they're planning to run. So it's possible that the Coast Guard get a skewed vision of what our 15-minute windows look like every hour. And they end up seeing those and they say, oh, well, you're 15 minutes every hour. There was only one or two boats going through there. Well, if they think that, they might think that because the boats were able to come through in a lot more frequency because the train wasn't closed as often, because they weren't running their true schedule. That's something that we have to look at. Maybe that becomes an issue. Maybe that doesn't become an issue, but it is something for us to keep an eye on because this is our community. Let me tell you this. Brightline trains do not want us to have this 50-50 schedule. They do not want us to have two 15-minute windows every hour for our community to have this. And I can predict to you what is happening behind the scenes right now. They are reaching out to people on the Coast Guard Committee in the United States House of Representatives, trying to get those people on the Coast Guard Committee from different places around the country to tell the Coast Guard, hey, what happened with this is a disaster and we need to change this and this shouldn't be allowed to happen. They're probably working already on spreading money around to members of Congress around the country that sit on this or other committees, trying to get them to talk to the Coast Guard and say, you can't let this happen. They're probably getting companies that they work with to do work on the tracks or do other things to start reaching out to people on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee or the Coast Guard Committee or other things to get them to try to say, oh, we heard that this is not going to work. That's because they are a business entity that has that ability to reach out to members of Congress around the country through lobbyists and things like that. That is probably what is taking place as we speak, for them to try to make sure that what's taking place with what is a reasonably palatable schedule doesn't actually get implemented into a true regulation. That's something that we have to watch for. Here's things that I think should happen as well. This is not a fight just at the federal level where I sit in the U.S. House of Representatives. As we speak, you have the Brightline train company trying to get something else to happen, and that would be to get taxpayer funds to fund building a new bridge over the St. Lucie. And they talk about like it's going to happen tomorrow, but really this probably wouldn't happen for about a decade. So why does this matter? Because they're trying to get local communities, cities, counties, local entities to write letters of support to basically say, give them grants, your money, your tax dollars to pay for a new bridge. That's a conversation that needs to be had. But in my opinion, that conversation should not be had until we have a finalized bridge schedule that works for our community, until they have reconciled what will happen to our community for the next decade with access to our waterway. We should not, people in the cities, in the counties, in any other entity that they're reaching out to saying, hey, please write a letter of support for us to get this money. Nobody should be supporting, in my opinion, efforts to get Brightline anything until they reconcile with the community what will be the finalized and permanent schedule for our waterway and for our maritime traffic. And we are not to that point yet. And they, as I said, you can predict, are fighting against this 50-50, this 50-50 fairness for our community. They are fighting against that. One final point on this that I think we need to be paying very specific attention to as well. That schedule of 15 minutes twice an hour is that is a great start. But I think we all that we get out on our waterways, we know well enough that would be a decent schedule for Monday through Friday, and during most of those hours, that's a pretty decent schedule. That's something I feel like I could live with. When you get into Saturday and Sunday, when you get into our federal holidays like 4th of July coming up, or Memorial Day just passed, or Labor Day, or these other big federal holidays, or spring break time, things like that, where the amount of people that you have on the waterway is double, tripled, maybe even quadrupled. I don't know the exact numbers of that. Those might be times that we need even more hours, more minutes on the hour than what they're proposing to give us right now. That 15 minutes every hour, or 30 minutes every hour, but divided up in two 15-minute windows, doesn't even come close to what our community needs, because it's 4th of July, or because it's Labor Day, or because it's Memorial Day, or because it's Saturday and everybody's out, on the water, or that kind of thing. That's something that we have to look at as well. Do we have to have a different and longer schedule for our community because maritime has the right of way? Make no mistake of that. Maritime has the right of way, not the train, and not anything else. Maritime has it. So that's what we have to be looking at. Does maritime deserve even more time than that in those other windows? So that's a bit of an update on this. If you all have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to the office, and we'll try to answer your questions if I didn't answer this. If you have comments for this, again, realize that there's going to be an opportunity to make public comment. But of course, again, reach out to my office. Give me the comments that you have on a way that this could be improved, or where it's hitting the mark, or where it's missing the mark. Let us know what that is. Again, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell the communities, the HOAs, everybody else, what is taking place with this, and to pay attention to this and document what takes place as you're out on the water, because that proof of what is taking place, that is going to have to be our ammunition to give to the Coast Guard to say, hey, that's a good schedule, and you should keep it that way for the next decade. Or that schedule has to have even more time for the local community, or whatever it is. We will need that documentation for it. So please help out your friends, neighbors in the community by taking note of what you see. And that, as always, honored to represent. You all just got home, and glad to be home for the weekend. I look forward to seeing you all around. And in that, you all take care. All the best.